Tonight on Phillycam Voices, we have a special episode for you. I'm your guest host, Colin Donahue. As part of our Philadelphia media class at Swarthmore College, we've partnered with Phillycam to produce segments for tonight's show. We have a segment on Philly Experiences, a small business that gives tours of Philadelphia, a short piece on Philadelphia sports fans, a segment on the Painted Mug Cafe, and an in-studio interview on Fair Trade Philadelphia. Good evening, and thanks for tuning in to Phillycam Voices.
I'm excited to introduce this first segment. I took a look at Philly Experiences, a small business that gives tours of Philadelphia, showing the city from a local's perspective. Not only are these tours a lot of fun, but they stimulate the local economy by bringing foot traffic to other small businesses. Let's take a look. I had the chance to speak with Chrissy of Philly Experiences, a brand that hopes to amplify Black, LGBTQIA+, and hood culture by giving curated experiences to locals and visitors alike.
I'm Chrissy, founder of Philly Experiences, which actually started as a passion project after my first and only solo trip out the country. While I was in Barbados, I realized I already knew I was introverted, first of all. Introverted, socially awkward, social anxiety, you name it, I have it. I've been had it, no one believes me. And so while I was there, the first couple of days I was hyped. I didn't really have an itinerary, so I was just wandering the island. And then I was at the beach and it hit me like, okay, I wish I would have planned this better and I had a local to actually show me around. So that moment, the very next second, there was an aha moment of, there's probably somebody in Philly wishing the exact same thing. What you see now is not where I ever thought it was going to go. And that is a globally recognized community engagement brand. That's really what it is. My goal has always been to build community, whether it's the traveling and the visitors or the people that are here. There should be no difference in how you enjoy yourself in a new city.
Chrissy then described how she comes up with new tours to make.
Most of them just came to me as something to do. I call them a download. So they came to me, especially my hood tour, Morals and Murals, which is the most popular one. That one just, it created itself. And I just went and took people to where I was supposed to take them. And then while doing tours, guests asked questions that I didn't have answers to. And I would be honest and say, I don't know, let's look it up together. And so I got me to learn about this city that I slowly was falling back in love with. And now while I'm out, I'll randomly just take a SEPTA bus and hope to see a new mural. And if I do see one that takes my breath away, I get off and I'll walk back to it and I'll sit with it and I'll read about it and I'll make sure I get pictures and video, and I'm like, oh, I wonder if I can include this. Now I want to include all the murals in the city on a tour, and that's impossible, which is good because it gives people a reason to come back, and now it's giving me an avenue to create more tours.
Morals and Murals, a tour of street art in Philadelphia, has garnered a lot of attention for Philly Experiences. I asked Chrissy what her inspiration was and how she came up with the name.
My old therapist came up with that name, and I'll give her credit. So Antoinette Jackson was my old therapist, and it was just something I said in a session that we came up with that title, but she influenced it. I don't know if she said it all directly out of her mouth, because the full title was Morals and Murals, Tales from Our Hood. And that's just a lot to say. Even Morals and Murals gets me tongue-tied sometimes. And now it's just nicknamed the Hood Tour. And so I just call it Morals and Murals Hood Tour now. But she's influenced that because it sums up what's happening. Because I do storytelling, I'm telling what it was like growing up in the city, from my earliest memory of like age 4 or 5 to, and I think I covered about 20 years. So about to the age of 25. So I covered 20 years of my life of how systemically I was made to be a statistic because of these tales.
Finally, we discussed a terrific aspect of Christy's business, that she brings foot traffic to small business. I asked her what owners thought of her bringing so many people over on tours.
In general, people are shocked that someone cared. They just assume, the business is open, people will see it, they'll come in. And as a business owner, I understand that. You're like, I'm here, come support me. And then I'm coming along, I don't know any of these business owners, and I'm just saying, hey, how would you like foot traffic? And I just show up with a group of tourists / strangers / locals / humans. And I encourage people to buy whatever they feel like buying on 52nd Street. If you've been on 52nd Street, it's our version of Canal Street. In New York, we got a little bit of everything. But it's legal. Like Canal Street, you got somebody whispering, like, come upstairs. No, you don't have to go upstairs anywhere on 52nd Street. If you want to buy pots and pans from the lady at 52nd and Chestnut, buy them. You want to buy, quote unquote, a fake Gucci bag or shoes or belt, get them. You need some sneakers, they got them. Like, it's so, the hustler and entrepreneurship mentality is strong there. So I encourage people to buy what they want, and they do. Guests have bought anything and everything you can think of on 52nd Street.
For Phillycam Voices, I'm Mateo Zules. Peace.
My story features a new performance venue, the Painted Mug Cafe in South Philadelphia, dedicated to empowering the local LGBTQIA+ community. They started online during the pandemic, and now they have a brick and mortar location. Let's take a look. One of South Philadelphia's newest businesses, the Painted Mug Cafe, opened in June 2021 as a performing arts space for queer artists. Their mission is to serve Philadelphia's community through ambitious programming made accessible physically and digitally. Today is one of their first in-person events. Let's check it out.
So when we started the Painted Mug kind of during the pandemic, I was looking to move to a new place. I saw all these buildings that had like a storefront on the first floor and an apartment upstairs, and I was like, what if I bought one of these buildings and we open our own space? Because we've been looking for a space that is welcoming of folks who don't necessarily feel welcome in the neighborhood. So we wanted folks from every part of the LGBT community to feel safe and welcome, and we wanted to create a space that also wasn't centered around drugs and alcohol. So like one of the monthly events that we do is sober karaoke. It creates like a great opportunity for folks who don't drink anymore to come out and have some fun. But really we're trying to expand our programming to include all parts of the community. We're hoping to start some family programming soon, some workshops and other like learning opportunities. And so we're just hoping to be kind of a place for the community to come and gather to celebrate performance art and all types of art. So Song of the Month Club is actually an event that we started during the pandemic. We really wanted to see a show that delves into the songwriting process. We set up digital streams. We got everything up on Facebook. We did it all through through the computer, and everyone's in their own home. So the sound quality of the beginning episodes were not so great because some folks were like filming in their living room on an iPhone camera. We took a break after episode 5 because we didn't really have a home for it, and digital shows were not getting as much traction or audience. So when we finally brought it to the Mug and we were open, it was really great to be in the space and to bring live music and to really hear artists on a great sound system. So we're really happy to have the last 2 episodes filmed in the Painted Mug, live in front of an audience.
Our challenge for this month was to learn one new thing and write a song about it. So I'm going to ask my lovely guests right now. Ave, what did you write about?
Anyone who knows me or knows about my family knows that we just lost my older sister to COVID. So the first 2 months of this process has been trying to figure out how to function as a family, how to try to function in life. And so that this part is what the song is about. It's about the selfish parts of grief.
The last thing you said to me is I'm the strongest you've ever known. But that tells me you thought too much of me, 'cause you left me here telling me to hold on. How could you close your eyes and leave?
We really wanted a space that allows folks to really make community and meet other people, making sure that we uplift and highlight producers who are part of those communities and really make our community the vibrant, amazing place that it is.
I guess I'm forever forgetting and always learning just how little time we have in life. You gotta live exactly as you want to, exactly in the moments that you have.
It's just been it's been really great to kind of see the community support and folks coming to help out and to produce shows in the space, to donate their time to helping us renovate the space, and I'm really excited to see what comes next.
I used to carry books with me, but all my words have been humidified. I used to carry songs with me, but one day they got taken with the tide. The train no longer runs down that ruddy stretch of island we call road. Our neighbors with the guns swallowed hard silver bullets down their throats.
As a baseball player and a sports fan who recently moved to the area for college, I was interested in investigating the validity of the negative stereotypes against Philadelphia sports fans. Let's take a look.
Philadelphia fans love football in a really dark and disturbing way. The national perception of the Philadelphia sports fan is that they are lunatics, almost pathologically negative. And I think it is a richly justified reputation.
If you follow Philadelphia sports, you've almost certainly heard broadcasters and other media outlets echo messages similar to this one, that the Philadelphia sports fan base is inherently bad because of the passion the fans show for their team. This message exists not only in Philadelphia, but also on a national level, as the perception of a Philadelphia sports fan is viewed as being widely negative across the country. As a big sports fan myself, who just started living in Philadelphia 4 years ago, my opinion of a Philadelphia sports fan has changed drastically in a short amount of time. I first moved to Philadelphia with the notion that the city's fans were angry and rude, but have since learned that the fan base is loud, passionate, and above all, proud. For my short video, I conducted interviews with Philadelphia sports writers and fans to discuss the persisting narrative of the city's fans. Each person I interviewed had a different perspective on the city's fans than the one that is commonly heard. As someone who grew up a sports fan in Philadelphia, can you describe the Philadelphia sports culture and what sports means to the city?
I think that the city rides the teams for its emotions. So, it's very cliche. People say, oh, it's a blue collar team. They like hard work. They like winning. But I actually think it's more that we're a city that rallies around the teams and we gain a lot of spirit through our teams. So when the teams are winning, we all feel good. When the Eagles win a playoff game and you live to see another Sunday, that whole week everyone feels good. So I think that's really at the core of why losing hurts. I think it's the finality of it, and it's the mood swing, if you will. I think we really care. And it's something for the city to get behind it and rally around, and the teams are sort of the heartbeat of the city. We're a big city, but we're not New York, we're not LA. So sports has always been the venue where Philadelphia competes with New York, LA, and Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe the first thing that comes to mind, first of all, I think overall the Northeast sporting culture is just vastly different than it is anywhere else in the country. In part, we take things a lot more seriously over here, maybe at times too seriously. In part because I think it's just a very big part of the community. And it's sort of like that communal nature that I think is pretty limited to, like I said, the Northeast corridor. Boston, Philly, New York, Baltimore a little bit, DC. It's a very just unique atmosphere and a unique part of our community.
I want to get your opinion on why you think Philly fans are so misrepresented on a national level.
Yeah, and I don't think it's weird, right? And I think that part of it is amplified because they've never been really good, right? My entire life I've had 2 championships. I think my dad's 52. He's seen 4 championships in 52 years. That's a lot of losing. And because these teams in the city or he's seen 6, I guess. I forgot the 2 Flyers teams. Still not a lot. And to be so associated with losing and not being associated with high levels of success, you have to be known for something. And that's what it inevitably becomes because fans get so frustrated and they're so passionate and love their city. And sports as a whole, to me, have always been kind of a version of civic pride. You think of the earliest aspects of sports, it's the ancient Greek Olympics where all these people come from city-states to represent where they're from and where they love that they're from and to show that they're the best. And that really extends to sports fan, and I think that's certainly true in Philadelphia.
And I think it just, we're passionate and we're loud and we wear emotions on our sleeves. So the media can tell a story and run with it. I was at the game a couple weeks ago when Ben Simmons returned, and everyone was so worried about how the fans would behave, and they weren't selling beer in cans. They had to pour it into cups because they were afraid people were going to throw the cans at Ben Simmons. I mean, it was utterly ridiculous, and everyone was fine. It was so blown out of proportion. There's idiots everywhere, but I don't think Philly's any worse. Or probably any better.
Certainly. I mean, people will bring up, Santa Claus, and that happened like 60 years ago at that point. Like nobody that will read what you write or that even is, 90% of people listening to that broadcast were even alive during it. But it's still sort of held over Philly's head. It's a weird phenomenon. I'm not sure I necessarily see it with any other cities. I do sometimes see, you'll have fans run out. I forget, was it Chicago? I think the White Sox fan runs out and attacks a coach. If that happened in Philly, we'd legitimately never hear the end of it. And quite frankly, that fan shouldn't hear the end of it. But the way that one actor can sort of portray an entire city seems pretty unique to Philly. And again, I'm not 100% sure why, other than laziness with the media.
And that will be all for my segment. I want to give a quick thank you to Mark, Derek, and Seamus for taking the time to meet with me, and to all of you for watching. I hope you enjoyed.
And now for our final segment, we'll be discussing the Fair Trade Philadelphia movement, and specifically the Fashion Revolution Initiative. Joining us in the studio, we have Iris and Gurpreet. Gurpreet is a steering committee member of Fair Trade Philadelphia, and Iris is an advocate at Fair Trade Philadelphia. Thank you so much for joining us in the studio here today. Just for everyone at home, could you tell them what makes a product fair trade? Because they may be familiar with fair trade coffee or food products, but can you go a little bit into that process? Like, what does the supply chain for a fair trade product look like?
Sure, so I could start. So typically when we're saying that a product is fair trade, we're referring to a global movement. And this is a global movement that values the health of the environment as well as the dignity and equality of all of those involved. So this can include sustainability, fair wages, safe working conditions, no child labor, and transparency in the supply chain. So Fair Trade Philadelphia as an organization, we aim to create more fair, equitable, and honest economy here in the Philadelphia area. And we do that by educating Philadelphians, institutions, as well as consumers. And we'll talk a little bit more about what we're doing specifically in the fashion area.
Yeah, we like to call ourselves Philadelphians. But you asked about the supply chain and the fashion supply chain. Well, the fashion supply chain in general is complex. When you think about materials, you think about who's making those clothes, so textiles, buttons, zippers, everything that goes onto a single piece of garment that you wear. When it comes to fair trade supply chains, the difference is, number one, fair trade organizations are, I don't want to say they're smaller, but they're definitely making fewer products than bigger brands that are mass producing a lot more. So automatically the supply chain is slightly less complex. And then they have deeper relationships with their suppliers, with the manufacturer, as well as with the brand. So that means that there are more checks and balances in place for all the things that she talked about, like sustainability, so caring about the environment, making sure that people are paid fair wages, safe and healthy working environments, basic requirements like having bathrooms enough for the number of people that work in factories. So those are the things that I think fair trade brands focus on when it comes to the supply chain. And then, of course, then they get distributed across, and then the distribution is also slightly smaller compared to some of the bigger brands that mass produce and then sell to a bigger audience.
And then fast fashion has created a market for cheap and revolving items. Can you maybe discuss maybe a little bit what fast fashion is and maybe some of the costs of participating in that cycle?
Well, I used a few keywords here like mass production and mass consumption. I think that the overall side effect is this toxic cycle of constantly wanting to jump onto trends, constantly wanting to consume more, so you're not
micro
happy.
Trends.
Yes, and jump onto micro trends. Okay, well, why don't you take
this? I just wanted to say that now they're referring to not just trends, but micro trends, because it's being produced so quickly. And the way that the cycle starts is that it's these micro trends are marketed, and then people they're engaged, right? They see marketing on social media, they want to be part of this micro trend, but they don't see really what's behind the scenes, which is how cheap the materials are, materials that also don't break down, and then they're thrown in the trash and they fill up landfills.
Yeah, and then so we have a saying that, what is that? That loved goods last longer.
Loved clothes last.
Yeah, loved clothes last longer, or loved goods last longer. And I think that that should be the key message when it comes to fashion in general, that you can buy good quality pieces, use them for a while, and not necessarily jump onto this buy and trash culture, because everything that we're buying is ending up in landfills. Even though a lot of people talk about recycling, very small percentage of things that we actually consume are recycled. So something to consider.
Right, and then of course there's the human factor as well. So the clothes is cheap, the labor is cheap, and then the price of the clothing is cheap, and that's what starts the cycle, right? So if somebody gets a hole or a stain in their clothing, they just dispose of it. It's a very disposable culture because they know that they can buy something for $5, $10, $20. But they don't see that the people that are making that clothing are also being paid very low wages, and they're working in unsafe working conditions, and to include child labor, which is horrible, and it's not advertised.
And the last thing I want to say is, a lot of times in marketing we talk about made in America, made in Italy, and sorry, Italy, but when we talk about made in America and how these, we consider that automatically this product is probably better. But there's been a lot of news in the last 4 to 5 years about sweatshops in LA and the working conditions of people that work here are as bad as anywhere else in Asia, for example. So really look at the label, people, where are you buying products from? What are they made of? Who made it? Ask questions, and try to change this toxic cycle.
And can you tell us a little bit about the fashion revolution?
Yeah, so Fashion Revolution is a global movement that started as a response to this incident that happened in Bangladesh. A big factory, 8-story factory, crashed and killed almost 1,100 people and injured close to 3,000 people. Most of those people were young women or women and young children. And this was because there weren't those checks and balances in place to make sure that there were safe and healthy working conditions for the folks that work there. And so Fashion Revolution started as a response, as a remember this incident and sort of change what is happening to build a community around people with our people and push the fashion industry to change, really, because it doesn't matter if you're buying a fast fashion product or a luxury good item. The toxicity that I talked about is pretty much the same.
Right. And I think the other piece of Fashion Revolution is also, so there's this supply chain issue and just bringing light to what happened in Rana Plaza. And then there's also the aspect of learning how to take care of your clothes, right? To how you wash them, to not use hot water, to air dry them, and then also to be able to mend your clothing. Like I mentioned before, if you have a stain, maybe you can put a cool patch on it. You get a hole, you learn how to sew it.
And yeah, you can buy thrifted instead of buying, new clothing. There's so many ways. So Fashion Revolution, as the term itself, is a revolution for you to make changes in your life and for fashion brands to make changes in their lives, in the way they work.
Yeah, and what are some practices you're seeing in Philly that you think will lead to a more sustainable future for fashion?
Sure. So I would say just the local economy, small businesses. So we've, this is something we're interested in. It's a passion project for us, and we're really into all these local businesses and Philadelphians that are opening, little boutiques, whether they're using dead stock material to create fashion or,
growing their own dye.
Right,
in
growing
their
their own
backyard.
dye. So local businesses, I think, is one way.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest change I think we're seeing is just people being more aware. There's a lot of education, information out there. People are paying more attention. There are, you see now when you go to Whole Foods, you see so many more products that are Fair Trade certified or B Corp certified or made by small businesses. So it doesn't always have to be a certified product, but even just shopping local, shopping small, are some of the changes that we're seeing, and that's why we're doing the event, the Fashion Revolution, as a part of the Fashion Revolution month, which is April. We are doing an event at Drexel where we're bringing together a panel of local businesses. This year, the Fashion Revolution motto is "You Are Fashion Revolution." So we sort of put a spin on it and said, how can we, think about what Philadelphia is doing in this space? So we brought together 3 local brands, all women-owned, and we're going to be talking to them and bringing some of the Drexel students to participate and talk about how they are making an impact in the lives of the folks that they're working with, who work for them or with them, as well as how they're reducing their impact on the environment and how they're impacting their consumers.
And quickly, right before we wrap up, I was wondering, where can people find you and find out more to get involved in the Fair Trade Initiative?
Yeah, so our website, fairtradephiladelphia.org, and then we have a monthly newsletter that people can subscribe to. We do 2 events every month that, the last couple of years everything was online, but now we're doing things also in person. So please join our events. And the Fashion Revolution event is on April 20th. So we'll be, it's a hybrid event. So the Drexel students will be attending that in person, and we have a Zoom link for anybody who wants to join online. So it's going to be a fun way to come learn something new and get to know some of those local brands as well.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank
That's
you.
all the time we have today. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. You can watch our show on YouTube and Roku, and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We'll see you next time.